Hey everybody, it's wedding season in Westeros. What could possibly go wrong, right? Right? We watched episode 5 of House of the Dragon, so hit the intro!
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour.
All right, welcome everyone. If it's your first time here, we're two dads who love all things fandom out there, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and Middle-earth on down to Westeros. We love it all, and we want to bring all of our insights and love of all things nerdy to you, our viewers. So if that's your glass of red wine, we're here for you, and you should definitely subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on all the amazing reviews and info we bring to all of our favorite fandoms. So thanks for tuning in, guys. My name is Chris Matthews.
And I'm Matt Parham. Hopefully you all doing well.
Yeah, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. Doing another traveling talk and hopefully not crash episode.
And don't worry, guys, if you saw the last House of the Dragon episode from us, he did not crash. He's okay, guys. He's okay. So let's get into it. Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, episode 5. We Light the Way is what it's called. So it's directed by Clare Kilner, written by Charmaine Degrate. So the Rotten Tomato score, I look it up every time, it was an 86%. So they've been hovering around that 85%, 86% rating all season. So pretty good, critically reviewed show we got going on here. So let's get into it, shall we, Matt?
I think it's time.
All right, so let's go. This episode we see Daemon is a swinging bachelor again. Now that after his wife Rhea Royce, played by Rachel Redford, accidentally fell from her horse. Oh, you know,
her head and necks.
Yeah. You know, also with a little help from Daemon and a rock he happened to find. So apparently, in the book, too, it just mentions Lady Rhea Royce died from falling off her horse. That's it. That's all it says. They don't really show her or anything.
Little artistic license there.
Yeah, a little bit of artistic license in this. So the showrunners read that, and they're like, oh, man, Daemon had to kill her. He had to. So they invented that for the show. So it's a total invention of the show. Little artistic license there. And if you guys were wondering, I was wondering this, too, when I was watching the episode, who that guy was that Alicent was talking to with the weirwood, right next to the weirwood tree. That was Larys Strong, played by Matthew Needham. Kind of like Matthew Parham. Pretty close, right? That's the actor, the British actor who plays Larys Strong. We saw him briefly before in episode 2 at the hunting party as well. We know that he has a disability with his leg and everything. But Larys is the younger son of Lionel Strong, who's played by Gavin Spokes. I love this actor in every scene that he's been in the show so far. Gavin Spokes, that is. We find that he's actually the new hand now in this episode, which, side note, was an outstanding choice. And hopefully Viserys will start actually heeding his advice now, because he gives pretty stellar advice that the new hand does. But back to Larys.
Little late, I would say, to finally get some sage advice from his hand. But
I know, a little bit late from the hand, but better late than never, maybe. I don't know. But back to Larys. This dude is playing the game. Yes. Yeah. But back to Larys. This dude is playing the game of Game of Thrones. Did you notice too, Matt, how he remarked about that plant that wasn't native to Westeros, but it was there growing anyways? And that kind of planted, pun intended, the idea in Alicent's mind that the Targaryens probably shouldn't rule because they're not actually from Westeros. This dude is high manipulating all over the place. This dude knew exactly how to stir that pot, and he did. So these characters, the Strongs, are going to play a big part in the show moving forward. And look for the eldest brother, Harwin Strong, to appear soon. He'll play a pretty important role moving forward, but no spoilers there. First off, man, I have to mention, as a dad, I completely understood this episode, and I completely related to Viserys being extremely tired all the time and just over being king and all these responsibilities. I mean, this dude just can't catch a break as a party planner. He's gotta take his hat off as a party planner and give it to somebody else, because from the tournament in episode 1, to the hunting party, now to this wedding, things just never work out as planned for good old Viserys in here, right?
That's right. It's traditional Westerosi wedding, but he doesn't know that, obviously.
No, none of the characters in this actually know the traditional Game of Thrones type Westeros wedding that we're accustomed to. So, yeah, it did not turn out the way that they thought it would.
Yeah, I guess technically this might be the first disastrous wedding.
Right? Yes. It definitely might be the first disastrous one. And going kind of towards the beginning of this episode, we got to actually see Driftmark in this. And I don't know about you, Matt. I love the visuals of this island kingdom. It was amazing. It was so cool to get to see them walk up and go across that bridge to the castle. Beautifully shot, beautifully rendered. I love that. I especially loved like the little details too in the castle when they went in there, and it had just exuded a seafaring house. It had like plank boards as the floor, like you would see on a ship, and the wooden throne that he had there, Lord Corlys has, looks like it was just ripped right out of a keel.
So awesome, right?
So awesome.
That's what I thought too. Is like, oh man, everybody's got a cool throne in this show.
Right. So. Absolutely, you got to. If you're gonna be in Westeros, gotta have a cool throne. So, I absolutely loved all those little details, and it was really cool to see. So hats off to all the designers of this show. You guys are doing an incredible job with that. So it was awesome to see, and we get to see Viserys and Lord Corlys, played by Steve Townsend. It's good to see him come back as well. He worked out all the details there for the houses to finally join together with the marriage of Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon. And I gotta say, it was such this is so disappointing to me. It was such a drastic downfall for Sir Criston Cole this episode, played by Fabian Frankel, who we see wants to actually run away with Rhaenyra, and he ends up telling Queen Alicent that he slept with Rhaenyra after thinking she already knew. It's just like, oh my god, dude, what is happening with you? All in all, this dude is not having the best of times now. Just like, whew, it's just
I think it was an interesting dynamic to have his character written this way, because something that we haven't necessarily seen in the original Game of Thrones was this concept of chivalry.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they are distinguishing this part of Westerosi history by including hints of that. We saw it already in the Lancing tournament, with the garlands being distributed to the different knights that were competing, and the mercy being bestowed upon Daemon by his competitors. So it's interesting that we've got Sir Criston operating on those ideals as well, with his chastity called into question, and as well as his nobility, his honor, really.
Yeah.
So,
and just he thought that like he could regain his honor by running away with Rhaenyra and starting a new life in one era. That was his way to justify all that he did and the decision that he made, which we talked about last episode was a very intentional decision when you're taking off lots of plates of armor.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of time to think there, Sir Criston. You should have made the right decision, dude. What's wrong with you? And once again, Paddy Considine, he steals the show as Viserys when, in that one intimate moment when he's talking to the new hand Lionel Strong about his legacy and questions if he would have had more challenges, would he have been a better king? It was beautifully honest to me that moment, and I think that we all ask ourselves that kind of a question in our life, like how will we be perceived later on in life? So it was very poignant to see that. And the showrunners have confirmed that Viserys is suffering from a form of leprosy. So. As he's,
I was wondering if it was what's it called, the dragon scale or grayscale?
Grayscale is what that is. Yeah, there was a lot of theories about that, as well as the crab feeder as well. They thought that he had grayscale as well, but this is not grayscale. It's just a form of leprosy that he has. So he's just slowly starting to rot away, and having to deal with that. And you see his arms even worse now. It must bring up a lot of questions about his legacy and where he wants to end up and what has happened with him so far. And this really reminds me of the idea, it's slowly starting to remind me of the idea of, how, hard times bring about like the strong leaders, which usher in the good times, which brings about soft leaders, which lead to hard times. It's kind of a vicious cycle when it comes to that. So they had really good times with Jaehaerys. He had the longest running peaceful kingdom in Westeros, and then Viserys got to take over from his grandfather. And I wonder too if Viserys ever thinks maybe they should have picked Rhaenys instead of him, his cousin. So it's all interesting. Thought that scene was very good. Patty Constantine, you did an awesome job. Matt Smith also was nailing it as his role as Daemon again. His casual, not give a damn attitude is definitely a likable trait, even though he's a complete psychopath. We see him casually brush aside an accusation that he killed his wife during the wedding, and then he hits on Lyanna Valerian before he tells Rhaenyra she'll be bored in her marriage. It's just like he's just going around having a good old time at this wedding, which by all accounts, she is gonna absolutely be bored in her marriage there. Whatever you think about Matt Smith or whatever you think about Daemon Targaryen, this dude's got a lot of swagger. So it's really interesting.
That's what I don't get is just what's so charming about the dude. Why does he like instantly have likability with the lady characters that know, much like his late wife, that he's terrible for them?
Yeah, I know he's a terrible character, but I don't know. He's got some appeal. I have some appeal towards that character because of the way that he handles these situations. Even though, like I said, he's a complete psychopath. Yeah. So we good question. We'll have to continue to evaluate that as we go along here.
Right.
I know. So we get to this wedding, this sham of a wedding of two people who agreed to marry to honor their houses, but are totally cool with just having their side boyfriends and whatnot. And Emily Carey gave a phenomenal performance. That's Queen Alicent in there. And when she found out that Rhaenyra did sleep around and lied to her, the wheels are now in motion for that rift between her and Rhaenyra. And she comes in with her green dress, and that comment about the green dress, which is a statement that she is ready to fight for her child to be king. So that's setting up the chessboard once again here. It does seem like this is the last time we're going to get to see Millie Alcock and Emily Carey play these characters, since there will be another time jump here next episode. So the older actors are going to take their place. So I got to give props to them while we can. They did a phenomenal job with these characters. I'm very sad to see them go. I wish that they would have had more material. I kind of wish they would have had a different episode to end on, because this episode kind of ends in a whisper with the wedding, with a whimper, and with this wedding taking place, and Sir Kristen beating the crap out of Laenor's boyfriend, and it's just like, there's this conflict. Yeah, to beat the life out of him. And then it ends on that shot where you see the blood in this little makeshift wedding with another rat there in King's Landing. So for my rating of this episode, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. All in all, this episode was okay for me, and I did have another opportunity to watch it, but I felt once was enough for this episode, which is why I lowered my score a little bit. So it's not a perfect score for me or anything.
Yeah.
It's also just hard to watch to see everybody just being terrible, and the few honorable people that we have, like Sir Kristen, fall so far and throw away everything. It's just hard to watch, and there's not a lot of hope in this episode. But this is Game of Thrones, and in Game of Thrones fashion, every wedding has to end in blood and rats, apparently. So, what did you think, Matt? You got any other thoughts on this episode?
Absolutely on the same wavelength as you again, because I felt that you saw this episode coming from a mile away. You knew that there was not going to be a good outcome. I wonder if, and I couldn't find this in any research that I did, But, did somebody slip some bad shrimp to George R.R. Martin during a wedding one time? Like, what's he got against a marital ceremony? But, no.
Total bad taste in his mouth going to a wedding.
Yeah.
I've been to some bad ones too, so I can totally relate if that's the case.
Probably not as bad as they constantly end up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so you knew that this was going somewhere south, and indeed it did. But I do constantly find it hard to look to a character for some sort of breath above all the murk. I read an article where George R.R. Martin was being interviewed about the differences between this and Game of Thrones, and he said, in Game of Thrones, we gave the audience a character in Arya to look to as a heroic figure, somebody that they could root for.
Absolutely.
And we just don't have that in this show.
Not right
he
now.
said that is a very calculated decision, that he wanted to show that these are human beings, not heroes. And I get that, but it's also meant to be entertainment. And like we were saying last week, after a while, it's just, for one, it's predictable that everybody will inevitably make a terrible decision, and that whatever happiness is going on in the show will soon be sucked out of the plot to reveal more murk and mire for us to deal with. So
there's a lot too.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. It's not necessarily a formula for bad filmmaking or for a bad story. It's just hard to watch, And so on that note, I also give this episode a 7 out of 10. It's just difficult to watch. So
absolutely. So 7 out of 10 for Matt, 7 out of 10 for me. Once again, we'll still be staying tuned in this Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon show here next week with episode 6. It'll be interesting to see the new actors take on these roles that we are accustomed to seeing with other younger actors. So I will be very interested to see how that plays out. So it'll be really cool to see. So episode 6 next week, Sunday night. What do we get to review next, Matt?
Next, we're going to be taking on Andor, the season premiere of the first 3 episodes.
Andor!
And then, of course, we'll be taking
That's right.
next episode of She-Hulk and Rings of Power.
Yep. Awesome. So if you guys want to catch all those episodes, stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, like this video, spread the word, get us out there for Fatherly Fandom. Thanks for joining us today here. It's been a lot of fun, and we love talking about all this stuff. Leave comments about what you thought about this episode of House of the Dragon for us. We love getting comments from you guys about what you thought, and we'll read them on the air on these House of the Dragon episodes moving on forward. So we hope you guys have a good rest of your Tuesday, and from our families to yours, adios.